Sure. My name is Helena Raulus. I'm a lead associate at the moment in the FCA. I was actually a student, PhD student, and a staff member at the Aberdeen University from 1995 to 2005. I did a law degree and then a PhD. And then indeed, I was a member of the School of Law.
Thank you very much. And why did you choose University of Aberdeen for your studying?
That's a very good question. I chose University of Aberdeen because I wanted to go. I'm originally from Finland, and I wanted to go somewhere abroad to study.
Yeah.
And of course, I knew English. That was then directed me to look into the UK universities, and I thought to myself, why not Scotland? And Aberdeen was actually the first one to reply positively to my UCAS application. So I decided that that's a good choice. Also, it is incredible to think now, but at the time we didn't have internet, we didn't have any sort of way to know what type of university is Aberdeen, what type of place am I going to. So I was relying on word of mouth, and there were a couple of acquaintances of mine that said that Aberdeen is a nice city, it's a safe city. It's coming from Helsinki, it's a very similar city. And so that's where I ended up in Aberdeen.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And what were some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen?
Oh, I was there for 10 years. So for me, it was a very long period of my time. But certainly I remember from my undergraduate period how I was very impressed about the level of teaching, the interactivity of the teaching we did at the law school. Then, of course, at the PhD time, I could more participate myself in that too as well and get to know the students. So I would really say that for me, it's been the good quality of teaching that I've gotten that has benefited me of most, and that's something I tell to people.
Thank you very much. And did you join any student organizations or societies during your time at university?
I think I tried as an undergraduate, I tried the debating club, but that was not my cup of tea, I must say. I was a bit more involved in the postgraduate period, and that's when I was actually setting up a postgraduate law school and social sciences collaboration and social being together events and things like that, where we could talk about how to do research, but
Yeah.
also how to just know each other, that who else is there, and socialize with each other.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And did you make many friends and connections while you were at university? And you're still in touch with them?
I do have few friends. I still have few friends, and it's amazing thinking it's so long ago, and for me, quite a few countries ago. I have since worked in several countries, being back now in the UK. I do keep contact with them, and they are very dear friends to me, both from the law school as well as from actually from other departments.
That's great. Thank you. And what were your initial career aspirations while studying?
Ah, uh, I wanted to do European law, and that's of course now looking at where the UK is, and I went to the UK to study European law to become more European. I did not know. I don't come from a background where we have lawyers or professionals in my family, so I did not know what to expect, how to build a career, and I've been searching on how to get to do more matters on the European scene all through my life. But what I can say, what was immediately picked up, this was picked up by the faculty, that I was very interested in European law, and for example, quite early then I got a offer to do a PhD in European law from the faculty, as well as guidance on what are the options, what are the master degrees, etc., etc. So in a way, for me, going to Aberdeen was very good at fulfilling my career aspirations, even though I didn't know what I really wanted.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And how is studying in UK different from studying in Finland?
I I haven't done a full bachelor in Finland. I have done only a conversion degree. So I went to study for bachelor in the UK. But I did actually work in Erasmus School of Law in the Netherlands, and I saw a lot of Finnish students there. Then I was an assistant professor. And what seems to be the striking difference is really that interactivity. In the UK, in Aberdeen, we talked about issues. We had the tutorial system where we would be exploring certain problems, legal problems or legal issues together with the teaching staff. And I think that's quite a big difference. I don't think they have that kind of structure in Finland. In Finland, it's more of the teacher teaching and you then go into the exams as far as I've understood. So for me, that has been a very it's a bit of a challenge sometimes to deal, or it was a bit of a challenge when I was a university lecturer to deal with these. I'm so used to having a discussion, having a debate,
Yeah.
expecting people to give me their thoughts rather than the thoughts from the books or from the paper.
Thank you. And what made you decide to pursue PhD?
I wanted to study European law, so I did a PhD. I didn't have and I still don't. I'm not an academic. I didn't have an academic aspiration per se, and maybe in that sense, hindsight and LLM would have suited me better. But I wanted to indeed do a proper big work on European law, and I think it's been a very good thing in my career. It hasn't always been helpful because people class me as an academic. So I would give that as a warning or as a little bit of as a like, if you really think of becoming an academic, great. If you think that you're going to do something commercial, yeah, then check that your PhD is commercially applicable as well, because it is still very much part of that academic pathway. But I was curious and I wanted to do it. And I think it has given me extraordinary set of skills and capabilities for other things as well.
Thank you very much. And did you participate in any internships or part-time jobs while you were a student?
I did a lot of teaching at the law school. So I was there. A part-time lecturer, part-time tutor, doing all the sort of the grant work. I also did a traineeship at the European Commission. Then at some point when I was doing my PhD as well. So that was a very good experience, and I do recommend that. Well, it's a bit more difficult now from the UK, but for me it was a very, very good experience. So getting all these internships and ways to connect with people in other ways is always very good.
Yes, thank you. And what is FCA?
FCA. FCA is the Financial Conduct Authority. So it's one of the biggest regulators of financial markets and services in the world. And I am new at financial services, but I work at the European engagement department. So that's where my continued interest in how Europeans and how the UK is doing business continues.
Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit more about your job and responsibilities?
Sure. I am fairly new at this job, so I've been doing this only for 6 months. But I am managing a couple of people in the department, and we are looking at the European relations, specifically with the regulator-to-regulator relationships. So I work often with the Swiss regulators or the regulators from the crown dependencies as well. And we solve questions on how to how can we learn from best practices from them? How can they learn from best practices from us on how to work with the financial services sector? We also do sometimes simply supervisory work, or we help the supervisors to connect with the other supervisors in Europe so that we can solve case questions for them. And then I'm also working quite often on our internal positioning on what should be the FCA's approach to some of the questions on how to get European guidance, for example, in how to use that in the FCA context now after the Brexit.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And how did you manage to get a job at FCA?
Hard luck, the position being open. I also, of course, I have connections because before I joined the FCA, I was the head of the UK Law Society's office in Brussels. So I do have quite a lot of connections reaching, and I did have connections reaching to the financial services sector as well. So that helped. Also, they were looking for someone who had done this type of work, this type of it's relationship management and knowledge work that I do in a nutshell. Dealing with regulators, dealing internally with different departments, and then trying to figure out what is the most knowledgeable solution to that question in place. So I had done that for the law societies before.
Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit more about your time at the Law Society, as well as your time at the European Commission?
Sure. Well, if I start with the Commission first, because that was a long time ago and it was a short sprint. So I applied to the European Commission traineeship program and I managed to get in. I worked at what was then called the Justice and Home Affairs Directorates. I was assisting on criminal justice and police cooperation at the time. At the time, it was also very much it was third pillar time, so we did not have the Amsterdam Treaty then yet, which would then harmonize that you would get all these sort of community processes. So this was still very much intergovernmental. So I would go to meetings, I would go and take notes, I even started drafting a report on a police cooperation and what should be the future options for police cooperation when the Treaty of Amsterdam would enter into force. And so that was quite a lot for that 5 months that I was there. So it was a short traineeship stint. But the Commission does these stints. They offer these. It's a big program. They offer these traineeships, and they can be applied for. Then for the Law Society, I actually worked there for 8 years in Brussels, and that was when I was able to move away from the academia and move to the working with professionals. So before that, I had been at the Erasmus School of Law in the Netherlands and as an assistant professor in European Union law. And then I got a job offer from the Law Society to join the Law Society's office. At first, I joined there as an internal market policy advisor, and I was there helping the solicitors on commercial issues, whether it's an IP law issue, commercial law, whether it's something to do with the environmental law also was something that they were interested in. What were the European developments, and how do the European developments then, how they would have an impact in the UK. So that was before Brexit and before the Brexit vote, the job that I did. So I joined in 2015. So I did have a little bit of this sort of normal work. Then, of course, 2016, there was the referendum, and all our work ended up being pretty much Brexit and its impacts on solicitors and different legal areas, things like that. I became the head of the office in 2017, and then I was leading on the Law Society of England, its Brexit work, but also working for Law Society of Scotland and Law Society of Northern Ireland, assisting them on their Brussels-based work and some of the Brexit impacts, giving them information about that.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much. And what were some of your proudest moments throughout your career?
I would say that the stuff that we did for the law societies, that has been really fulfilling and really useful. Actually, yesterday, the European Court of Justice decided the Apple state aid and tax case. And that was one of the first events I put together for the Law Society in 2016, early 2016, was about the Commission's decision. And our event happened to be 2 days before, or 2 days after the Commission had published its decision. So suddenly we have 150 lawyers coming in because everybody wanted to talk to the Commission about the decision and wanted to challenge, okay, what's happening in the state aid, stuff like that. So when I saw that in the papers yesterday, I texted my former colleagues that, remember that, we were there. And we were doing this work then. And of course, what we did a lot of very important work on the Brexit, so Brexit questions. So I think that was also very much recognized by the Law Society and its members when the office was closed in 2022.
That's very impressive, thank you. And what skills have you found to be essential in your role?
That's a very good question. I would say, of course, initially everybody talks about the technical skills that you need to be able to understand and complex technical details and have the head for it. I say yes, but I'm always working in a circle where everybody knows how to read and everybody knows how to pull information together. That's fine. But you need to sort of learn to trust that you know that. But then on top of that, it's very much basic skills of asking questions, basic skills on being simply polite when you go about it, basic skills on human interaction, if I say it that way, that how do we treat other people with respect. And that actually gets you surprisingly far then in life if you approach people appropriately. Then on top of that, sort of technical expertise, etc. Because what you need in any kind of professional career is the ability to work with others.
Yes, thank you. And how do you manage your time effectively?
Sometimes better, sometimes not. I prioritize. I draft priority lists. I draft them weekly, daily basis because these keep shifting all the time. So I keep thinking, okay, when do I schedule time for something and then try to do it then? And what needs to be done now this morning or now this afternoon so that I can keep on top of it. It's really about trying to keep a little bit of constant review of what is everything that you need to be dealing with it and how the priorities change.
Yes, thank you. And what are some books or podcasts you would recommend, career and non-career related?
I listen to the FCA management podcast. I'm trying to think now what's the name of it. That's a very good one. I was listening this morning and they were again talking about they were actually talking about the time management question there. I try to read, but it's more than about these questions of how to build psychological safety, how to become more resilient, that I then read in my own time. I of course read all kinds of small blogs from FCA, The Economist, which are the biggest professional publications that I think are good to follow for everyone.
Yes, thank you. And a lot of students struggle with transition from academia to professional world. What advice do you have for these students?
It's a very big transition, and you need to sort of appreciate it. I think it starts from that understanding that this is a very different type of world. For me, it happened very late because I had been in academia until I joined the Law Society's office in 2015. So I'd been essentially for almost 1995. I was a student. 2005, I graduated with a PhD. 2015, I got into my first professional job. It's really appreciating that difference and trying to keep very open mind that academia has only given you the one skill set and think, where does this apply? But then learning and being very open to learn that now there's a need to learn the way the business is being done.
Yes.
And in that sense, looking into other people in the organization, looking into other people in the industry, wherever you go. Trying to make contacts is important so that you can talk to people about your experiences, about your doubts as well, because it's inevitable that there will be doubts. And seeing if this is normal, the industry, that other people are experiencing too, or maybe this is something more personal, which means that then you need to start thinking whether this has been a suitable move. But I would say really talk to people and be really open about it to yourself that this is a big move.
Yes, thank you very much. And a lot of students struggle with stress during their university years. What advice would you give to students to deal with stress?
It's a very big one, and I think it's something that it's going to span over your whole lifetime if you allow it to take control. Unfortunately, this is one thing that where you can perhaps do the best work yourself. It's really about learning what issues you find stressful, how to contain it, how to give it the appropriate amount of appropriate amount of time in your life, that you don't allow it to overtake you. Do other things as well. I know studying can be overwhelming, and I've been there too. I certainly was with my PhD, but it's really figuring out that what is it that you need to counterbalance it. And for me, again, the answer was having people in my life, having good contacts that I can talk to about something else than what I'm doing and something else that I'm being stressed about, and creating a life. So in a way, later life, maybe we talk about work-life balance, that you have the family and you have your time for yourself. I have been a late learner on this. I do have now. I think I'm learning it, and I can say I've been there. I can tell you that I have been there too. So maybe I can tell you that it is possible to get out of that cycle of stress too.
Thank you very much. And would you recommend your career field to others?
I have had a very complicated career, if I'm honest. I have always been thinking that maybe doing the usual thing in law I would have ended up in an easier spot, because I have been a couple of times in my life now in a place where I've had to search for something totally new, without having anything in my back pocket, without having any existing jobs in my back pocket. So in these periods, I always end up thinking that maybe doing the usual thing. So what I mean by in law doing the usual thing is doing your undergraduate, after that doing your professional qualifications, so becoming a solicitor, becoming an advocate, or becoming a barrister in England. rather than doing a PhD, would be, it's much easier to explain to the employers as to who you are, what you are. So what's my career path? It hasn't been straightforward. It hasn't been easy in that sense. But what I can say about doing things outside of the framework, it does, of course, give you a little bit more in the end. It does give you a little bit of adventure. So this is for people who like a bit more adventure in their lives. Then you do what you see fit for yourself rather than what fits the prospective employers' perspectives. So there is a balance there, and there are considerations of going either way. But certainly, I don't think my career has been for faint-hearted. So if you prefer in your life not taking a lot of risks or not a lot of I don't know, unexpected moves, then stick to that career path. That's your degree, and then graduating from that to the next step gives you.
Yes, thank you very much. And the last question is, if you could go back in time, would you change anything about your time at university, or would you give yourself any advice?
That's always so difficult. I don't always agree with everything I've done for myself or in my life, but I also don't really see that how would I change it? It's part of me, part of my experiences. But maybe one thing coming out of this discussion as well is not to stress so much, not to think that everything hangs on the next test, next exam, next paper. Enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah.
What I'm doing, I'm not talking about simply partying, but enjoying the work and seeing what takes my fancy rather than being perhaps too performative about it.